I think one of the things that is undeniable is that this century is going to be, in many ways, a century that we expect to see the rise of India. It very much wants to be part of that and think that we have many, many win-win situations. We are very excited about the trade deal that is almost at the finish line now. But again, India should understand that we're not going to make the same mistakes with India that we made with China 20 years ago. I thought I would talk a little bit about our foreign policy vision in the Trump administration generally, and then pivot to the U.S.-India relationship specifically as an example of some of the points that I made in the more general presentation. You know, one of the things that President Trump has done, whether you like President Trump or do not like President Trump, is that he has empowered those of us in the U.S. government to think about some fundamental assumptions about foreign policy that honestly had not been subject to much debate or dialogue for many decades. If you think about it, the world that emerged after World War II had a very clear vision for American foreign policy. You know, in around the world, whether you're talking about Malaysia or Montevideo, Uruguay, or Malawi, we were seeking to contain the spread of communism in the Soviet Union. And that was the unifying principle in American foreign policy. India had obviously adopted a pretty clear position in that of trying to balance between East and West and really fomenting the non-aligned movement to try to avoid taking sides in that conflict. And then, of course, as we know, in the early 1990s, almost overnight, the Soviet Union vanished. And somewhat strangely, there was never an assessment at that point in time of the purposes of U.S. foreign policy in the post-Cold War world. In the last 35 years, really almost as long as the original 50 years, we really have not had any kind of vision about what we're doing in the world and what the point of U.S. foreign policy is. And President Trump, with his America First foreign policy, has made it very clear that our objectives are to make our country safer, stronger, and more prosperous. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't want to do things that also advance the interests of other countries. But it recognizes that we in the American government, the purpose of foreign policy, of United States foreign policy, is to advance our national interests. We are not a charity organization. We are not the United Nations. And it is important, I think, the work of diplomacy is to find the win-win situations when you say this is one country's interest, here's another country's interest. We have to find the area in which those two circles converge. And so, I think that my thesis here is that over the last several decades, American foreign policy had kind of descended into a toxic brew of moralism and impotence, when we felt that we would go around the world lecturing people about values, but then, frankly, when other countries would do things that were very much against our interests, we would just, express concern or issue a strongly worded letter. And, President Trump has made it clear that, he wants to be the president of peace. He has made it a real priority and a point of pride that he has gone out of his way to help resolve many conflicts around the world, frankly, because the international system that we inherited had not been up to the task. And what does that mean with respect to a relationship like India? I think one of the things that is undeniable is that this century is going to be, in many ways, a century that we expect to see the rise of India. And it's in our interest, and we think it's also in India's interest, to be partner with India's interest. This is a country of almost unlimited potential. It's now the world's most populous country. It has incredible economic, human resources, other resources that make it one of the countries that's going to decide the future of this century. The United States very much wants to be part of that and think that we have many, many win-win situations with India. And so, there's a reason that I am here today, which is I want to highlight the importance of India as we look around the world in the 21st century and see, what are the relationships that we really want to cultivate. And again, I'm not here to do social work or charity. I'm here because it's in the interest of our country, and we think it's in the interest of India to deepen our partnership. And it has to be obviously based on reciprocity and mutual respect. We are very excited about the trade deal that is almost at the finish line now, and think that can be the basis for really unlocking almost limitless potential. And so we are very much excited on focusing with India on these economic and commercial opportunities. And so, but again, India should understand that we're not going to make the same mistakes with India that we made with China 20 years ago in terms of saying, we're gonna let you be able to develop all these markets, and then the next thing we know, you're beating us in a lot of commercial things. We're going to make sure that whatever we do, it's fair to our people, because ultimately we have to be accountable to our own people, just as the government of India has to be accountable to its people. So again, I think on the commercial economic front, it's incredibly bright. I think at a more general political level, we have two leaders in our two countries who have forged a great relationship. I think they really think the same way about putting their country's interests first, and it just seems very logical that we are going to be deepening our cooperation, and it's very important that our two countries can build on this personal bond. I think in these next few years we can really set the stage for decades of very close India-U.S. cooperation. I hope we can kind of move beyond the Cold War model where, India, feels compelled to kind of keep the United States at arm's length. I think we can, again, cooperate very, very forthrightly in areas where we have very many common interests, which are many. I mean, I will briefly just mention the security area. I think the United States and India have very coextensive interests when it comes to preventing terrorism, when it comes to ensuring freedom of navigation on the high seas and elsewhere. And so I think that, we are seeing some changes in the U.S.-India relationship, cooperation in defense and other areas that I think would have been impossible, some years ago. And I hope that that's an area that we can continue to lean into. I think the energy cooperation possibilities, again, are limitless. So I think it is no accident that the President sent really one of his very closest advisors, Ambassador Gore, as ambassador here. The President really understands the value of this relationship, and again, I'm delighted to be here today to celebrate this relationship.